They say everything changes after a child is born, and they're right. But not in the way I expected. For 8 months, my wife Hannah kept the bedroom door locked. She said she needed space. Said postpartum recovery was difficult. Said our daughter Lily needed her full attention. I understood. At first. But then she stopped meeting my eyes. Stopped laughing. Stopped letting me in, literally and emotionally. I offered help, patience, affection. It was all met with cold deflection. "I'm just tired," she'd mutter, brushing past me like a stranger. So I slept on the couch. For 8 months. I convinced myself this was normal. Temporary. That she'd come back to me. But cracks formed. Lily had bruises once, small on her wrist. Hannah said she fell off the couch. Another time, the diaper pail was filled with clothes that weren't Lily's. Men's clothes. Ones I didn't recognize. When I asked, she said they were from donation bins. And the door, it was always locked. One night, around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of a low hum. A man's voice. Whispering. I tiptoed to the hallway. That door, the one I hadn't opened in 8 months, was slightly ajar. Just a crack. I peeked in. What I saw made my chest seize. There was a man standing beside the crib. My daughter's crib. And Hannah, she was just standing there. Watching. I didn't make a sound. Just backed away, grabbed my phone with shaking hands and quietly called the police. Not because I wanted to, because I had to. That night, everything I thought I knew about my wife unraveled. And it was only the beginning. The 911 operator asked for my name, address, and the nature of the emergency. "There's a man inside my house," I whispered. "Near my daughter's crib. I don't know who he is." "Is anyone in immediate danger?" she asked. "My baby," I said. "My 7-month-old is in there. And my wife is just watching." I gave the address, and within minutes, I heard the distant wail of sirens. But those minutes stretched into forever. I didn't go back toward the bedroom. I stood in the hallway, heart pounding, hand gripping the baseball bat I kept behind the door. I didn't want to use it, I just needed to be ready. Then the front door burst open. 2 officers stormed in. One of them glanced at me, nodded, and moved past. The other followed. I pointed to the hallway. They opened the bedroom door. No shouting. No struggle. Just a slow, tense silence. When the officers stepped out again, the man was with them. Mid-30s. Hoodie. Jeans. Smug smirk. I'd never seen him before in my life. He didn't resist. Didn't speak. And Hannah? She came out a few seconds later, arms crossed, like this was all some overblown scene from a bad drama. "He's my therapist," she said flatly. "He was helping me through postpartum." At 2 in the morning, one officer asked. "It's none of your business," she snapped. But it was someone's business. Because as they escorted the man out, one of the officers turned to me and said quietly, "You should look into a restraining order. Something doesn't sit right here." I nodded slowly. But inside I was spiraling. That man had been in my home. Standing beside my daughter. And the woman I married hadn't stopped him. She'd let him in. And something told me this wasn't the first time. That night, after they were gone, I sat in the living room holding my daughter against my chest. Her soft breathing was the only thing that anchored me. I hadn't said a word to Hannah. She retreated to the guest room like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just destroyed something sacred. By morning I was calm. On the outside. Inside. I was unraveling, but with precision. I dropped Mila off at my sister's, then went to work like it was any other Tuesday. But I didn't go to my desk. Instead, I made a stop at a security store. "I want discreet," I told the clerk. "Night vision audio. Real-time cloud backup." He nodded like he'd heard it all before. By nightfall, our house was covered, 6 hidden cameras in all. Bedroom. Nursery. Living room. Guest bathroom. Front and back doors. All silent. All secure. For the next 2 weeks I pretended. Smiles. Breakfast. Diaper runs. I even left for fake work trips, checking into a nearby hotel just to monitor the feeds. The first night, nothing. Second night? Same. But on the 5th night, I saw him again. 2:13 a.m. Same man. Different clothes. Same back entrance. My wife let him in. No hesitation. No shame. They didn't go to the couch. They didn't whisper. They went straight to the nursery. He stood over Mila's crib like he was assessing her. My wife watched him. Then placed her hand gently on his shoulder. Like they shared something. Something I hadn't been allowed to understand. I nearly dropped my phone. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just betrayal. This was something else. Something darker. And I would no longer wait quietly in the shadows. I didn't sleep. I sat there in that hotel room staring at the live footage on my phone, heart pounding like war drums. Every instinct in me screamed to go home, to rip that man out of my daughter's room, to scream at Hannah until the walls cracked. But I didn't. I hit record and downloaded everything to 2 separate cloud drives. Then I made a call. "Hey, it's me," I said to Alex, my friend from college, now a private investigator who owed me a favor. "I have a name and a face. I need to know everything." By noon the next day I had it. The man was Marcus Delaney. No job history. 2 arrests sealed in family court. Last known employment? Caregiver at a group home for teens, shut down after abuse allegations. Nothing ever proven. No convictions. Still, my hands shook as I scrolled through the file. Why was this man around my child? That night I asked Hannah. Calm. Controlled. "Who's Marcus?" Her fork froze midair. "Just a friend." "The one who shows up at 2 a.m. and stands over our daughter's crib?" Her eyes went wide, not with guilt. With fear. "How do you?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I walked into the bedroom and opened the closet. Inside I pulled out my backup phone. The one she didn't know existed. Loaded with footage, photos, and now a timeline of every visit Marcus had made. She looked like she'd been struck. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You don't understand." "You're right," I said. "I don't. But someone will." Then I picked up Mila, packed her bag, and left. That night I called my lawyer. Because this wasn't just betrayal. This was custody, and justice, and safety. And I was going to win them all. By Monday morning, every legal weapon I had was in motion. Alex's investigation gave me more than just background on Marcus. It uncovered security footage from nearby homes, time-stamped records from my smart home system, and eyewitness accounts from a concerned neighbor who'd seen him arrive late at night with a duplicate key. I handed it all to my attorney. And he looked up at me with a stunned expression. "Michael, this isn't just a custody case. This is criminal negligence. Endangerment. At minimum, a restraining order. At maximum, you could get full custody by next week." I nodded slowly. That's the goal. By noon we filed the emergency motion. By 2 p.m. Hannah was served. And by 4:30 p.m., my phone exploded. "Michael, please. Don't do this. Let's talk." I blocked her. I wasn't going to negotiate safety. I wasn't going to plead for space in my daughter's life. I wasn't going to ask permission to be her father. That night, Mila fell asleep on my chest, breathing softly, finally safe. And for the first time in months I exhaled. No fear. No cameras. No secrets hiding behind my own doors. Just us. But I knew it wasn't over. Because when a woman like Hannah feels her control slipping, she doesn't go quiet. She fights dirty. And Marcus, I had a feeling I hadn't seen the last of him either. But this time I was ready. Ready for war. On Wednesday, Hannah filed for an emergency injunction, accusing me of kidnapping our daughter. It was a bold, desperate move. And exactly the kind I expected. My lawyer, Joseph, was already waiting at the courthouse with every counter-document in hand. When the judge glanced through the evidence, Marcus's unapproved presence, the bruising report from Mila's pediatrician, the concealed nanny cam footage Alex had enhanced, his expression tightened. "Hannah," the judge said, voice low and firm, "do you want to revise your statement before I press perjury charges?" She stammered, trembled, glared at me like I'd betrayed her. It was almost laughable. Her plan had been simple: replace me, erase me, and expect I'd fade into a quiet, defeated corner. But what she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd been quietly building a life raft for months. Not just for me. For Mila. I'd transferred our savings to a protected account. Switched all essential documents to an address she didn't know. Bought a small home, close to Mila's school, with cameras, alarms, and legal custody protection. By Thursday morning, I held full temporary custody. And for the first time in 8 months, Mila twirled through the kitchen barefoot, giggling freely, drawing hearts with my name in them. "Daddy," she whispered that night, holding my hand tightly in bed, "I knew you'd come back." I kissed her forehead. "I never left, baby." But Hannah wasn't done. And Marcus? He was about to make a fatal mistake. Saturday night, Mila was asleep on the couch, wrapped in her unicorn blanket, cartoons still playing on mute. I was in the kitchen finishing up dinner when the doorbell rang, 3 times. Slow. Intentional. I checked the camera feed. Marcus. Standing in the rain, hoodie soaked, hands in his pockets, rocking on his heels like a man trying to look casual but failing. I stepped onto the porch and closed the door behind me. "Thought you'd be in hiding," he said with a smirk. I didn't answer. He stepped closer. Look, man, whatever you think Hannah did, she was just stressed. You two need to stop dragging each other through court. It's bad for the kid. I tilted my head. Is that why you shoved her into a wall? His face twitched. She told you that? No, I replied calmly. My daughter did. The camera confirmed it. For a moment, silence stretched between us, the air wet and cold. Then he laughed, but it was hollow. So what now? You're the hero? You think courts care about that stuff? I didn't flinch. They care about Mila. And you crossed the line the second you raised your hand in her home. That's when it happened, the mistake. He shoved me. Right there on the porch. In view of the camera. In front of two silent neighbors pulling in groceries next door. I didn't retaliate. Didn't move. Just looked him in the eye and whispered, "Thank you." The cops arrived 7 minutes later. This time it was his wrist they cuffed. As the squad car pulled away, I walked back inside and gently tucked Mila in. Peace at last was knocking. 2 weeks later, the courtroom was silent except for the shuffling of papers and the occasional tap of the judge's gavel. Hannah sat across from me, mascara smudged, arms crossed like a wall she thought could stop the inevitable. Her attorney whispered constantly in her ear. Mine didn't need to. Because the case had already spoken for itself. The recordings. The bruises Mila had drawn on a piece of paper in crayon. The forced use of Dad with a man she feared. The pediatrician's testimony. The CPS findings. And most damning of all, Mila's quiet, trembling voice saying, "I just want to live where I can say my real daddy's name." I didn't cry. I didn't smile either. I just held my breath while the judge read the verdict. Sole physical and legal custody is hereby granted to the father. The mother shall have supervised visitation rights, pending psychological evaluation and compliance with court-mandated therapy. Any violation will result in immediate suspension of access. Hannah gasped like the air had been knocked out of her lungs. I exhaled finally. Outside the courthouse, reporters tried shouting questions, but I ignored them. Mila's tiny hand wrapped in mine was the only thing I could hear. Back at home, she danced barefoot through the living room, music playing, hair flying, weightless again. At dinner, she looked up at me with those deep, knowing eyes. "Daddy?" "Yes, sweetheart. Can I change my name one day? I want it to be yours." I felt something break open in my chest. I reached over, took her hand gently and said, "It already is. Always has been." She beamed. That night, she fell asleep clutching the stuffed lion I gave her the day she was born. And in the quiet, I whispered to her, "A vow. No one will ever silence your voice again."